trouble putting into words. It's not the physical nature, it's the energy that's expressed and the energy that is exchanged between two people. So that's awesome. So connect with yourself because that's going to help develop and nurture the connection that you have with others. And that doesn't have to be just a romantic connection. You have connections with everybody around you. If you haven't checked out the blog post that I posted today about my experience in Bath and at the Jane Austen Center, do check it out. I had an amazing encounter with a man named Tom when I was in Bath. I'll just recount it really quickly, but you can read the full story on the blog. I was called. I was having a hard physical day. I was having a little bit of a hard time walking that day because my body's still healing and all that stuff. So my friend had said, "I'm not going to the museum with you, you nerd, but I will pick you up if you want to at the Jane Austen Center." And so I said, "Sure, perfect." But when I got out of the museum, something told me to walk. I wanted to move. I wanted to walk. I was just getting that soul nudge. And so I walked through town. I walked back into town and I was just kind of exploring and taking my time and going leisurely. And I passed by a man who was sitting in the alcove. And it looked like he was like a homeless man. I passed by him. He was sitting in the alcove of a shop. And I almost walked by him, but I noticed that there were pieces of paper that were taped to an empty shop window. And something told me just to stop, and I did, and I started reading the poetry, and it was pretty rudimentary by literature standards, but I liked what he had to say, and I think his sign said something about, like, I have the quote in my blog, but something about, like, poems about being happy and falling in love and saving the earth, and I'm like, I'm digging this vibe. And I could have walked on. I wanted to walk on, but something told me to stop and stay and say hello. And so I did. I said hello. And he had his head bent over a notebook and he was writing and he paused and he looked up and we just started talking. And I mentioned that I was a writer too. And I really liked the way that he was sharing his heart and his poetry. And he shared with me that he had been a chef pre-COVID and that he lost his job and he ended up homeless, but now he's getting back on his feet. And writing these poems is a way that he just clears his mind and makes sense of it all. And I'm like, I totally get it because when I was sick, and even before then, writing has always been the way that I make sense of my emotions because I'm a very emotional person and I don't view that as a weakness anymore, but I have complex emotions, and so writing is always a way in which I understand myself and understand the world around me. And we were just really bonding and vibing about that. And I ended up asking him to write me a poem. He had a sign like that you could pay for a poem to help him out, and I ended up asking him to write me a poem, and he just asked me just a few things about me. And I think I said, I just had a birthday. I just turned 40. Um, I'm on a spiritual pilgrimage and I feel like I'm going through a rebirth. Like it was very like I didn't tell him much about myself. And he ended up, I have it over here. I want to frame it. He ended up writing me a poem, and when he gave it to me 10 minutes later and I read it, like it was like he had such a huge impact on me because it was like he channeled it. Like I know for a fact that he channeled it because it was like a soul to soul communication, a soul to soul exchange, and it meant so much to me. And my friend later said, well, maybe him interacting with you meant so much to him, and maybe so, but that simple moment, what seems like such a simple moment, meant so much to me. And I have met so many people along this journey that I know I'm never going to see again. Like I'm not going to see him again, but he had an impact on me in that moment because in that moment I felt seen, and in that moment I knew that I was exactly where I needed to be, exactly where I needed to be. And it just, man, when you open yourself up to those kind of connections, again, not romantic connections, just opening yourself up and talking to people. My friend was teasing me because she was like, we don't talk to people. We don't ask, being British, she's like, we don't ask people's names. And I'm like, well, I do. I'm American. I talk to everybody. And the people that we met and we had conversations with, it was amazing and beautiful. And my blog entries, my journaling will share so many of those stories. That's what I love. That's what lights me up, the connecting. And that's what it's about. That's what life is about. That's what spirituality is about. It's about communion and communicating and connecting with people. There's something so incredibly special about that. And the energy exchange that is had between strangers that aren't really strangers anymore. So whether this is a romantic connection, which it could be, a very intimate connection in that respect, or whether this is a stranger that you just share a moment with, allow yourself to connect with yourself so that you can deeply connect with other people, because that connection is what it's about. It is what it is about, not just with your counterpart. Your counterpart shows you the way. Your counterpart is a catalyst to show you the way back home to yourself so that you can connect with so many people around you, with the world around you, with the universe around you, because that is what it's about.